She looked me dead in the eye and said I was the biggest mistake of her life. 10 years. Gone. Just like that. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I just smiled, because she had no idea what I already knew, and in 3 days, her whole world was about to flip. Before I tell you how this ends, hit subscribe because you are not ready for part 2 of this. My name is Ellis. I'm 34 years old, and up until 3 days ago, I would have told you I had a good life. Not a perfect one, just good, solid. The kind of life you build with your hands, one brick at a time, and then stop noticing because you're too busy holding it up. 10 years ago, I married Odette. She was 32 now, sharp, beautiful, the kind of woman who noticed things other people walked past. I used to love that about her. I built a contracting business from nothing, just me, a truck, and a stubborn refusal to quit. And somewhere along the way, she became the reason I kept going. We had a daughter, we had a mortgage, we had a life. On paper, anyway. But paper doesn't tell you everything. Looking back now, I can see exactly when it started to crack. It wasn't loud. It never is. It was the late nights she said were work. It was her phone, always face down on the counter, screen dark before I could even glance at it. It was the way she'd sigh when I asked how her day was, like the question itself was exhausting her. 2 years before all this, I brought a man named Bastian into my business as a partner. Odette knew him first, vouched for him actually, said he was sharp, trustworthy, good with people. I trusted her judgment. I always had. That detail didn't mean anything then. It means everything now. I remember our wedding day clearly, her laughing so hard she couldn't finish her vows, my hands shaking as I slid the ring on. And then I remember a dinner, just a few months ago, where neither of us said a word for 20 minutes straight, just forks against plates, just silence sitting between us like a third person at the table. I told myself it was stress, work, parenting, life doing what life does to people who've been together too long. I told myself a lot of things, actually. I was wrong about most of them. Somewhere between the vows and that silent dinner, she stopped looking at me like I was home, and I didn't notice. Not really. Not until it was already too late to stop what was coming. It started with a coat. Odette had come back from a business trip that Friday, tired, distant, already reaching for her phone before she'd even set her bag down. I grabbed her coat to hang it up. Normal thing, the kind of thing you do without thinking after 10 years of marriage, and a receipt fell out of the pocket. A hotel, 2 nights, not the city she'd said she'd been in. I just stood there for a second, holding this little piece of paper like it might change if I looked at it long enough. It didn't. I didn't confront her, not yet. I told myself there was probably an explanation, a work thing, a mix-up, something simple. I wanted so badly for it to be simple. So I started looking, quietly. Not proud of it, but I did it anyway. Bank statements we shared, a calendar app still logged in on the family iPad from months back, little threads, if you pulled on them, led somewhere I didn't want to go. And then I found the messages between Odette and Bastian, my business partner, the man I trusted with half of everything I'd built with my own 2 hands. I sat in my truck outside our house for almost an hour that night, engine off, phone in my lap, just staring at the front door. Wait, my own partner? The guy I ate lunch with 3 times a week? The guy whose kids played with mine? Something in my chest cracked open that night, and it wasn't just about Odette anymore. It was about how much of my life, my actual life, had been built on people I trusted completely. I could have walked in right then, thrown the phone at her feet and screamed until my voice gave out. Part of me wanted to, but another part, the part that had spent 10 years learning how to build things instead of burn them, told me to wait. So I called my brother, Callum, told him everything. He went quiet for a long moment, then said something I still think about. Don't get mad yet, Ellis. Get smart first. Mad can wait. I didn't sleep that night, but by morning I had a plan, and Odette had no idea it had already started. I asked her to sit down on a Tuesday night. Nothing dramatic in how I said it, just, "Hey, can we talk for a minute?" The kind of sentence that means everything and nothing at the same time. She sat down across from me at the kitchen table, arms crossed, already annoyed before I'd said a word. I think she assumed it was about money, or Wren's school, something ordinary. It wasn't ordinary. But before I could even open my mouth, she got there first. Went on the attack, like she already knew where this was headed and wanted to control how it started. She said I'd been distant, boring, checked out for years, and then she looked me straight in the eye and said it, the line I don't think I'll ever forget as long as I live. "You're the biggest mistake of my life." 10 years, a daughter, a whole life together, reduced to that one sentence. I sat there for a second, just breathing, and then I smiled, small, tired, not the reaction she expected. "Oh no," I said, quiet. "You really don't know, do you?" Her face changed, just slightly. That was the moment the power in the room shifted, and she felt it before I even explained why. So I told her, calmly. I knew about Bastian, had known for 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks I hadn't wasted a single day being angry. I'd spent it with my lawyer, Priya, quietly restructuring the business, moving what needed to be moved, protecting what was mine before this conversation ever happened. I watched the color drain out of her face in real time. She didn't cry, she didn't apologize, she panicked, and in that panic, she swung at me, open palm hard across the face. I didn't move, didn't raise my voice, didn't hit back, because my revenge was never going to be my hands. It was going to be everything I'd already done before she said a word. "The mistake," I told her, "wasn't me marrying you, it was you thinking I'd never see this coming." She sat back down slowly, like her legs had stopped working, and for the first time in years, I felt calm. Completely, terrifyingly calm. The next morning, I sat down with Bastian in the office we used to share, like partners, like friends. He didn't know I knew yet. I let him talk first, watched him go on about some supplier issue, like his whole world was about to fall apart. Then I slid a folder across the desk. His own contract. The buyout clause he'd insisted on writing in 3 years ago, back when he didn't trust me enough to leave his shares unprotected if things ever went sideways with us. He wanted an exit strategy in case I ever screwed him over. Funny how that works. I used his own paranoia to buy him out, clean and legal, before he even understood what was happening. He went pale, started talking fast, then not at all. Odette, meanwhile, was learning something too, that the house, the savings, the business, none of it was as shared as she had assumed. I'd protected the company as a separate asset years before we even got married. Priya made sure of that. It wasn't cruelty, it was just foresight she never knew existed. I remember calling my mother, Miriam, that week, needing to hear a voice that wasn't full of chaos. She listened to the whole thing quietly, then said something I'll carry for the rest of my life. "You don't destroy someone who hurts you, Ellis. You just stop giving them power. The rest does itself." She was right. I didn't have to do much else. Odette and Bastian's little secret world, once so exciting and forbidden, cracked apart fast once real consequences showed up. Job gone, reputation gone, and without money or image holding them together, there wasn't much left between them at all. I won't lie, there was a version of me that wanted to burn everything down out of spite, but then I'd think of Wren, asleep down the hall, completely unaware her whole world had just shifted, and I realized that's the part nobody warns you about betrayal. It doesn't just make you angry, it makes you protective, fiercely, quietly protective of whatever's still standing. So I chose calm. Not because I wasn't furious, but because chaos wasn't going to be the thing my daughter remembered. The divorce wasn't dramatic. No screaming matches in a courtroom, no dramatic exit with slammed doors, just mediation, paperwork, quiet, tired conversations with lawyers about custody schedules and who was keeping the dining table. That's the thing nobody tells you. The ending of a marriage isn't a movie scene. It's just a series of small, exhausting decisions, one after another, until one day you realize it's actually over. Odette moved into a smaller apartment across town. I kept the house. I kept the business, fully, legally, the way I'd quietly made sure I would weeks before she ever called me a mistake. It wasn't revenge, not really. It was just consequences, landing exactly where they were supposed to. Months passed. I focused on Ren, on rebuilding something steady for her, something she could stand on without wondering if it might crack. Some nights were still hard. I won't pretend they weren't. But hard is survivable. Hard I could handle. Then, one evening in early spring, Odette called. Her voice was different, somehow smaller. She said Bastian was gone, left not long after the money and the image did. She admitted it, quietly, like the words cost her something. And then she asked if there was any chance at all, for us. I sat with that question for a moment before I answered. I called you the biggest mistake of your life once, I said, calm, no anger left in it at all. Turns out, I was the best decision you ever made. You just didn't realize it until you'd already lost it.
There was silence on the other end, a long one. I didn't fill it. I didn't need to anymore. These days, it's just me and Ren most evenings, at that same kitchen table, except now it's covered in her homework instead of silence. We're building something new, slower, steadier, nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just real. And sometimes, late at night, I think about that word she used, mistake. Funny thing about mistakes. Sometimes the person who calls you a mistake is the one who ends up losing everything trying to prove they were right. I didn't need revenge in the end. I just needed time. And time, it turns out, always tells the truth. If this story hit you somewhere real, you probably know someone who needs to hear it too. Go ahead, share it with them. And if you're wondering what happened to Bastian after everything fell apart, well, that's a whole different story, one I might just tell you next week.
So, hit subscribe, drop a comment if you have ever been called someone's mistake and prove them wrong. And I will see you in the next one. Because karma is not luck, it's patience, and sometimes it just needs a little time to finish the job.